pizza delivery, hotel workers, and housekeepers of Reddit. What is your NSFW story? How would you rate it 1-10? I delivered room service at a nice hotel back in 89-90. One night I get a delivery for a bottle of high-end scotch to the penthouse suite. Great sale as I get automatic 17% on all orders. So the door opens and I get invited in. There are about 20 young Japanese men in the room and they have one of the guys pinned down on the bed and are wailing away on his bare feet with a shoe. I see this and don't know whether to laugh or call security. They see the stunned look on my face and reassure me that this is a bachelor party tradition where they are from. Sounds reasonable to me. So I go about my way. On my way out, several of the guys discreetly slid 10s and 20s into my hand as tips. After a couple more deliveries that night, I walked with over $250 from that room alone. 10-10 would recommend. Pizza delivery for 7 years. Fewer than 10 times did I see any noteworthy degree of nudity. Usually women who dance at the door in a towel or topless. But it wasn't the opening scene to porn that you're picturing. But once, I delivered pizza to an orgy in progress. If that's not a 10, I don't know what is. Except that I didn't join in. Probably not what you came here to see, but I used to work at the front desk of a crappy, no pun intended, hotel. One day the housekeepers found a room where the occupants had taken a steamy number 2 in the tub and turned the heat up to 90 before checking out. It was not safe to work in there. I was a housekeeper. It was a gross job. I came across used condoms. 6 toys. Poo. Pee. The final straw came when someone had jacked off and left the load on top of the cover. I went to change the bed sheets and I put my hand right in it. It was a 0/10, definitely wouldn't recommend. I quit soon after. Used to do bicycle deliveries on the French Quarter in New Orleans. Frequently made deliveries to strippers while they're working. Sometimes you get a little behind the scenes view of the happenings between customers and strippers. Once handed food directly to a stripper while she was getting finger blasted and she proceeded to hand me a tip from her bosom as though nothing was happening. I worked front desk for a small hotel in a small town that had 8 of those fantasy suites, where the rooms were designed to look like different things. Igloo. Cave. Casino. Honeymoon suite. Etc. There was so much NSFW stuff going on there that the housekeepers just told me to lighter myself when I was doing the laundry. Blood on the middle of the sheet? Clearly someone had a nosebleed. Unidentifiable stain? Had to be a food spill. It was the only way to get through the days. Thank goodness I never worked third shift. Those are the employees that dealt with the most NSFW stuff. Mostly thanks to noise complaints. I used to work in a hotel as a front desk supervisor. Please don't answer the door in a towel. Ask us to wait if you need to throw on some clothes real quick. I can't tell you how many times I'd brought something up to a room. The person answered the door in a towel. And then accidentally dropped some or all of the towel reaching for whatever I've brought them. Please put some clothes on. A friend of mine works at a hotel. This guy called the front desk asking if they could fix the heater. Which is a very common request even though they are very easy to operate. She went up to his room and when she got there he had handcuffed himself to the bed and was naked. Guess he was confident she would go for him cause he didn't have the key. She left him there. With no key. But naked and didn't close the door all the way. Posted before. But fits. Delivered pizza in Washington state back around 15 years ago and had several odd experiences. Most bizarre one I can remember, I was delivering several pizzas to a house which came to a total of about $36. I walk up to the house, knock on the door and a little kid answers the door. He hands me $40, takes the pizzas and closes the door. I stood there for a moment and just figured they were giving me the rest as a tip and the parents were too lazy to get off the couch. I'm almost back at my car and I hear, "Hey pizza guy, get back here." I turn around and see crazy looking blonde lady in the door in a towel. I walk back and she starts into a rant about how I was trying to steal money from her kid. I explained to her that I just thought they were giving me the money as a tip. And if that was an issue, they can have it back. I gave her the $4 back, and after a bit more talking she ended up giving me $2 as a tip. Not that great, but better than having a pissed off customer. Thinking all was cool, I headed back to the shop. When I get back at the shop, my friend who was managing the shop was on the phone looking a bit pissed. I walk in and he gets off the phone and explains that was the customer yelling at him about my behavior. I explain what happened, and we both figure they were crazy and continue on with the day. Fast forward 20 minutes. I have another order to take and I am putting more pizzas in my car. I go to leave, but there is this big ass pickup truck in the way. I go to the driver and ask if they could move since I have pizzas to deliver. The driver responds, "Why, so you could rip more people off?" I look closer and in the passenger seat is a crazy lady, now with crazy boyfriend driving. I go back into the shop and tell my buddy crazy people here to see us. My friend, being the hilarious guy he is, grabs paper and a pen and walks outside, very obviously writes down the guy's license plate and heads back inside. Then proceeds to call the cops. Shortly after that they take off, but tried to follow me most of the night, but found it hard in their oversized redneck truck and me in a little sporty pizza mobile. TL. Dr. Don't deliver to crazy. 4/10. Was one of 2 maintenance men at an apartment complex. Thankfully, 2 older, trashy women preferred the other guy. They would wear old, worn out lacy things every time he was scheduled to be in their unit for repairs. They were also borderline hoarders. The most NSFW delivery I ever did was deliver to a couple in a hotel. The woman answered and paid wearing only panties and a tight-fitting t-shirt. And her chest was ginormous. Then she tipped $10. Due to how close this hotel was to the shop. That's basically a 10/10 delivery. I heard this story from my uncle. He used to work as a pizza delivery guy. And once, he had delivered pizza to a guy who was fully naked and live streaming. That guy was 13. I delivered groceries back in the early 00. Nothing ever happened. I think it gave me low self-image. The closest thing that ever happened was an old widow who would tip me 100% when I would sit and listen to her for a half hour. Pizza delivery to residency. Receipt says deliver to set. Now, I've been on a few student film sets before and I have a pretty good layman's idea of the way things work. So I thought I'd ask what they were filming inside. It's this movie about these 2 cousins who duck each other. They did not tip me. As a former teen Domino's delivery expert in rural Tennessee, I have been tipped in every drug you could ever imagine. 2-10 out of 10. Really depended on the drug if I took it. Had women on a drinking dare usually answer the door topless, bottomless, or wearing a horse head. 9 out of 10. Was wholesome. Asked if I could be tipped in one hand job from a 40-ish year old. 3 out of 10. She was lovely, but stupid. Called to my girlfriend's place to get a BJ. 10 out of 10. A bit of roleplay. Duck yeah. And opened a door to the creepiest ducking man I have ever seen. A crooked smile I will never forget in a motorhome in the middle of nowhere on the bend of a random street. His eyes were too wide. His smile too forced. That ducking guy haunts me to this day. 0 out of 10. I was a housekeeper at a hotel for a few years. I lived in an expensive city, so rent was high but the pay covered the basics. One day my boss came up to my cart and warned me not to start cleaning a particular room until it was clear. It's not unheard of for guests to request later checkouts or stay an extra day. But I've never heard someone talk about a cleaning delay in such terms before. Then after 10ish minutes, a 30-something white male and a paramedic jog over to the room I was warned about. I didn't think it was my business to start prodding, but my first thought was, oh duck. Dead body. I've heard stories from other hotel staff. It's rare but it happens. This time, the situation was kinda sorta worse than that. Elderly Vietnam vet rented a room with the sole intention of killing himself. Called his son to say goodbye. and son called for an ambulance. He had already taken a shit ton of pills, but his body rejected them and he'd puked and shit all over the room. They escorted the elderly man out of the room. There were tears streaming down his cheeks and he wouldn't stop apologizing for the mess. It took 2 hours to clean what I could. We had to call a specialist service in to get the rest. I wasn't angry this time. It was one of the saddest things I'd ever seen. 8 out of 10. There was a guy who ordered the same way every week. You know who this is. Jim the usual. And then hangs up. His name was Ron. And his usual was a large, 14 inches, sausage pizza burnt. Like theirs well done. Where we make the cheese a uniform brown. But he wanted it further than that. Not literally black dust, but really dark all over. It was always delivery. And he tipped very well. Our drivers were drivers and order takers only. They didn't work other positions. I worked the oven and would only go on deliver as if we were behind on orders. One day in December I get the call from Ron. And I say I know your address. But I've never been there. Is it easy to find? He replies it's the one with 2 reindeer ducking in the front yard. So I'm driving around these cookie cutter townhomes that all look the same. And sure enough, there's one with a decorative reindeer mounting another out front. I walk up to the door. This super tan Italian guy in a purple robe and leopard print briefs, because his robe was wide open, answers the door. Shouts at me, you must be new. Here ya go, and throws a 20 at me. Bill was $13. This was in 2001. Only at a stroke 10 in terms of NSFW stuff. But man, that was a memorable delivery. Seeing this man in person who I'd cooked pizza for every week for 2 years was like seeing a centaur or unicorn. 10/10 as a customer though. Predictable. Direct. Kept it quick. Tipped well.